somewhat under the radar a few weeks ago, the Canadian government said, China, unload your investments in 3 Canadian companies. Those Canadian companies were mining companies. Peter Clausi is a shareholder activist. That's what he said, isn't it? Shareholder activist. And he joins me right now because I want to put the question to you. I mean, this is really unheard of, where the Canadian government would say, China, get out of this business. Is it because those companies were national security or because they had minerals that they don't want the Chinese to have? What was the reason?
The broader speech was about protecting national security interests. It wasn't about attacking China. It was about anyone who is buying a mineral property in Canada that may threaten our national security interests.
But I mean, if Britain did that, that would be a problem.
Britain's an ally. The United States is an ally. In
So
fact,
you're saying there that China is not an ally?
it would be hard in any sense to describe China as an ally. I can't see Mr. Ping getting up in the morning saying, what can I do to help Canada today?
I think you're absolutely right. So as far as, and Canadian mining is a huge sector, should Canadian companies be aware of who's buying, and can they have the option of saying out in the market, you can't buy these shares?
We just finished an interesting conversation on that. If they're buying in the market and they don't have more than 10%, how do you as the issuing company know? How can you stop it from happening? Some foreign actor, let's not say China, let's say Argentina, buys up 9.9% of your shares, and the Canadian government suddenly touches them on the shoulder and says, you have to sell that, bringing with it bad publicity for you. That's not fair.
But it is a good thing from a national interest, it happened with Hyundai, from a national interest to make sure that, put this way, genteelly, countries who should not have the same values or interests as Canada should not have their fingers on our national interests.
Our biggest problem is that things like lithium and cobalt go over the big red wall and they don't come back. They're for domestic consumption elsewhere, not for sale back into Canada. So we are selling our raw materials and getting nothing back for it.
So Peter, would you then say that this was a good move that the Canadian government, which has been criticized for years and years and years of not having the guts to stand up to foreign interest, is finally doing something on the right side of this equation?
I'd give it a 75%. There's some problems with it, but it gets a 75%.
And so, as far as investors, as far as companies doing business, you said 9.9, but if they're aware of some big funding coming in overseas, they have to get some pretty sharp lawyers.
They do. They also need permission from the federal government from now on, if it's not coming from a company that's a domestic with an ally.
Peter Clausi, interesting stuff. You used to be a lawyer, right?
I'm still a lawyer.
Oh, you're still a lawyer. I was going to say you're a reformed lawyer. Thank you very much. 3 minutes. So in 1 year during the pandemic, CBC paid themselves $33 million in bonuses above their great salaries. We need a discussion in this country. We need analysis. If you agree with that, please help us on the air. Press PayPal and subscribe.